So, Peter, what is meant by deathbed coincidences?
Deathbed coincidences are fascinating. If you look through a lot of the earlier books, you will see references to them. Somebody in India has an old friend from England who goes to visit them, and they see them coming into the room. They don't usually talk to them. Then when they go to find them, they've gone. And then they learn later that at the time that they arrived, the person was dying. So it works like this. There has to be a relationship between the person who's dying and the person who they go to visit. So they leave the hospice and they may go anywhere in the world. They may go to a different country, and I'll tell you one in a moment. Or they may even go under the sea. We've had some submariners that have had a deathbed coincidence visit. So it doesn't have to be just next door. It can be anywhere, as I say, even under the sea. Here's a lovely one. It gives you the real feel for it. There's a lady who lives in Australia. One night, she wakes up to realize that her son is standing at the foot of the bed. He comes towards her and he's dripping wet. All his clothes are wet. As he comes towards her, clothes change and he becomes much, much more transformed into a normal person and then into somebody with light around them. And he gives her a message and he says, "It's all right, Mum, don't worry. I'm absolutely fine. It's all okay." And then he disappears. She knows that he's died. And so she waits till the next morning when she can ring up the UK to find out that he in fact drowned in a boating accident at exactly the time that he came to visit her in Australia. So it shows the linkage that there is. But what happens if the person is not asleep, if they're awake? If they're awake, then it's very different. It's a feeling that something terrible has happened. You have to go to the telephone and ring up because you feel something awful has happened to your father. Or one person we know, or one story he told us, was that he'd actually broken up with his family and he was living in London and set up a life away from his family. That morning he woke up and instead of going to work, he took a train back to his family home. He was compelled to do that. He had to. When he got home, his mother rushed out of the house saying, "Thank heavens you've come. Your father was wanting to see you before he died." So this is a deathbed coincidence right at the very time of death. And of course, they made their peace with each other and the father died happily. So you always have a strong relationship between the two members. And sometimes when a divorced party, let's say it's the woman, gets the visit, but she in fact no longer considers herself to be in the marriage. So what's she doing? It's because he still loves her and wants to say goodbye to her. So it's driven by the dying person, always in an emotional relationship.
So there's always a sender and a receiver for a deathbed coincidence.
Always.
And they are always in a relationship.
Yes. In fact, there's a very good study done by Orlando Haraldsson in Iceland. And what he did was he asked the question, look, if all these people who are dying are going to visit other people, why don't we have just sort of random visitors coming? And it turns out that, of course, in the normal dying process, you don't, because you're linked up with the family members, etc. But if it's a sudden crash, say a car crash, then sometimes they do. And they appear to people, sometimes first responders, or to other people who are nearby as their deathbed coincidence. And so in special circumstances, it doesn't have to be with a family member or someone you love, but those are pretty exceptional.
If it's so exceptional and almost every time in a relationship of a family, couldn't it be influenced by the fact that they got a lot of visits by their relatives in the hospital?
One question is, they're called deathbed coincidences. And if you talk to somebody who says, well, this is all a brain mechanism, then they will say, well, look, there are hundreds of people dying all the time. They've got hundreds of relatives. And of course, on some occasion, one relative will know the other person's dying or will think about the other person. So there's nothing special about it. But when you hear the actual stories, it's quite clear that there's something very special about it. It's not just pure coincidence.
Sounds great to hear that, really.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.